Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Lorraine Jensen, and I will be your host this evening for the Metaphysical Society for Conscious Living podcast. I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Kiau. Welcome, Kiau.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Now, before I get on to my interview with Kiau, I just would like to tell you a little bit about who we are. So, the Metaphysical Society for Conscious Living is open to those seeking community, connection, personal and spiritual development, and offers an opportunity to feel connected and empowered by providing educational seminars, workshops, podcasts, and conferences. Again, my guest this evening or today is Kiau, and the talk will take place on June the 6th, 7 p.m. at the Unitarian Fellowship Hall at 595 Townsite Road in Nanaimo. So as you listen today, if you're inspired by anything that you hear, we invite you to please either share this podcast with other people that you may want to bring along with you and or join us that evening. So let me tell you a little bit about Kiau and his talk. Kiau started teaching remote viewing in 2012. In 2022, Sofia Torres and he began ATVE. I'm not sure what that is yet. Latin American's #1 authentic remote viewing school. Sofia is Colombia's best remote viewer and was the best controlled remote viewer in Latin America in 2022. So, Kiau and I are going to talk about authentic remote viewing, and he's also going to give us instructions on how to learn the art of remote viewing. And that is so exciting. It's free and he's not selling anything. That is really exciting. Everybody's selling something. So he goes on to say that for the last 2 years, people from Uruguay, Mexico, Chile, Argentina, and Colombia, Spain, Costa Rica, and Peru have been visiting Nanaimo physically.
No, psychically.
Psychically, thank you. Psychically, via their consciousness, while their bodies were at home. And they can prove it. So the question is, what is authentic remote viewing? Most people don't know, even though we all have this amazing ability built into us. He says to bring lots of paper and a pen for taking notes if you want to learn this fascinating art form. Life is a miracle, and we are living it right now.
Nice.
So before we carry on, I just want to recognize that last statement. Life is a miracle, and we are living it right now. It's such a beautiful, beautiful statement.
Mm-hmm. It came from one of our students. One of our students is a doctor. She's a psychologist in Costa Rica. And she had that just in one of her messages. And I thought, that's so true, so great.
Absolutely, it is. So your talk is about remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell, what is remote viewing?
When I do the talk, I'll talk about some different definitions of what it is. But for me, is what I normally say, it's a systematic, even scientific series of techniques so that anybody develops their ESP, their extrasensory perception, which means they can perceive things at a distance and do all kinds of really phenomenal things. Basically, that's the way I would say it try to put it in a nutshell. But of course, during the talk or even now, I feel like I can explain it a little more,
Just a little more.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Once a month in our school, all of our students do what's called a live outbounder experiment. So we did one last Sunday. There's a lady in Montreal, and she has a bunch of locations in Montreal that I have no idea what they are. Our students who are in different parts of Latin America, they have no idea where her different locations are in Montreal. Most of them don't even know that she's in Montreal. And we've agreed that on Sunday at 2 p.m., they all get this series of letters and numbers. So basically they have these letters and numbers, and that's it. Inside the envelope, there's instructions on what they're supposed to find, what they're supposed to look for, what they're supposed to write on their pieces of paper. So they know that between 2 o'clock and 2:20, she's going to be at a location. A half hour, 1:30 p.m., she goes in, she's got like 10 locations on pieces of paper. Without looking at them, she picks one and goes to the place. At 2:20, the 20 minutes is over, and they've got 15 minutes to use their cell phones or whatever they use to take a picture of their papers and send it to an email address. So we have their, what we call sessions, their papers, their drawings, their words. We have them in an email with a date stamp. Once we've received all the emails, then we get together, like on a WhatsApp or a Zoom or whatever, however we do it. We normally do it on WhatsApp now. And then we show them, or actually she sends me the photographs of the place because I didn't even know where it was. And then we look at our sessions to see if we have any relevant information. And then not everybody draws out the perfect place, or not everybody names the place, but usually if we have 8 people, 3 people drew out the place.
Really?
Yeah, that's a normal statistic. And we've gotten better results before, and it depends on how well trained the people are, how much practice they have with this. And in fact, in our last Sunday, 2 people drew it out and I drew it out, and I had like 8 drawings from the site. And I did something different because I'm so practiced at this and I've been it for years. I started doing my sessions 1 month ago. So 1 month ago, I'm drawing out where she's going to be in a month without her even knowing where the place was. And that's remote viewing. That's remote viewing in kind of like a simple beginner's level that
Wow.
you or anyone could do. When you know the technique, it's not hard to do. And it was developed like with 500 scientists over years of seeing the different things that humans do and what's easiest and what works best. Once a student has learned the technique and they've practiced it, then we take them on to higher levels. And in higher levels, there could be anything, any questions on this envelope. For example, people are asked questions about medicine, about history, about technology, about the relationship of corporations or people and the economy. And really, really good remote viewers, high level or authentic controlled remote viewers, they're paid quite a lot of money to answer these questions. So it sounds really crazy, but the beautiful thing about it is I can have anybody that says, well, I want to do it. Okay, here's how you do it. And they do it. They don't always get it on the first time. They normally have to take 8 shots. But because of the way the experiment's set up, when you've done it, there's no doubt in your mind whether it was coincidence or not. It's quite remarkable. And that's a basic human instinct.
Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you, like, this is all new to me.
Of course.
And so I facilitate a personal development program. It's a 4-day program, and it's a heavy program. So this week on Thursday, I'm going to lead this program for 4 days. And lots of times before I go into the program, I start feeling either I get pain or I start getting emotional, or, you know, and then I get there, and then 2 days in, somebody says something, and I'm like, oh, there you are.
Yeah, that's normal. Well, it doesn't seem normal according to the science we were taught in school, but that materialist physics has basically been defeated. In other words, in the past, science told us that if you can't physically touch it, it doesn't exist. By that doctrine, thoughts and consciousness don't exist. So the science of this was announced to the world in 1976. It's not a new thing. It was kept, parts of it were kept secret while it was developed in secret. And then in 1995, those parts started to be revealed. Now it's a public thing. Now it doesn't belong to any secret group or whatever. But a common example that I use all the time, and it's very true. Imagine a mother, she's washing her dishes, and then she gets a flash and she can see her kid up to some mischief or in some problem. And when she gets the flash, she might even have details of what it looks like, where it is. that again is a natural ability. It seems like we have a little search engine or a little thing that can go around and transfer information to us from a distance. And basically that's what was developed. It started in 1971. December 8th, 1971 is when it was first named. And that was after thousands of practice targets and all different types of situations where people were tested, and they developed an easy one that works for people to start with, and that's the outbounder experiment.
So is that something that you could do in the room with us?
We could do it together, but we'd need to set it up. We need a person to go somewhere.
Right.
And then, yeah, in other words, I've done it many times with groups of people. So we could, but it would have to be set up before time. Like, in other words, the person that's going to go to the place, they need, again, this is starting. This is beginner's remote viewer.
Yeah.
But they need at least 8 places, and they have to be all very unique, very different. It can't be 8 bridges. It has to be 1 bridge, 1 strange art sculpture, 1 lake, things that are very, very unique and very, very obvious and different, so that when the person is written it out in their session, it's obvious what it is, and that, you know, they have correct details from the site. So yeah, we could. I don't plan to, because that, just to do that normally takes about 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be fun to do one day.
Oh, it's amazing fun. And that's when I say that Latin American people have been visiting here psychically, because we've been doing that here in Nanaimo since we started. The first ones were in 2021. And it's like, when you see, for example, the Cedar Bridge that a person in Costa Rica drew out, and they don't know anything about Nanaimo. They don't even know I'm in Nanaimo.
Right.
And then draw out the Cedar Bridge. It's like, it's really surprising. For us, it's surprising. And the interesting thing is that for the viewer, when you do it, you draw it, and you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And then after, when you see the drawing, it takes a while to kind of like for you to wake up and understand that, oh, look what I did. You know, it's just a natural thing. So
I think it's fascinating. I think there's so many things that are natural to us that we've become unconscious to.
Yeah. And I think that some of these things, like it's just my theory, but I think this was with us from birth, or maybe even before birth. And it kind of makes sense that, because of course babies will kick, right, when they're in the stomach, but there's things that calm them down, the things that get them peaceful. And the idea that a kid will survive without being able to speak for 2 years, that talks for a lot of, you know, there must be a lot more. Well, I know there's a lot more to human instincts just in that thing. But I told you about the basic level. When you get to see it done at a really, really high level, and how much information is and how accurate, it's really fascinating. And I'm lucky, because I'm friends with the world's best. So we communicate, and some of them are even publishing this on the YouTube. Like, you can see it done. So it's quite surprising.
Wow. Wow, that's great. Like, that is, I'm really excited to hear this talk. And so you're going to talk about remote viewing, and you're going to talk about the different levels of remote viewing.
How to learn it. In other words, if you want to learn it, here's how you do it. And it's I've already written it up. I've given you guys like the internet link, and it's kind of like preparation for the talk. But it's really not that hard. It's a case of getting some people together and organizing the experiment and doing it. It's not that you need an advanced intellectual level. You don't need to be some special gifted person. All normal people have it. And it's just, you need to give them the circumstances so that you can see for sure that this was not their imagination. You can see for sure that there's no way they could have done this without actually having perceived at a distance.
Wow. You know, when we were doing intention circles, my friend and I started intention circles here. But somebody came to me and said that her son was missing in Syria. They didn't know if he was dead. They didn't know if he was alive. They had spent over $100,000 trying to find him, and they'd run out of money. But nobody would go in and gather any information. So she said, can you set intentions? I was like, shh, No pressure, but sure. So we started, we had a weekly group and we would start doing intention circles. So we close our eyes and we'd close our eyes and intend for this person to kind of show himself in a sense.
Cool.
And sometimes we'd open our eyes, and at one point I said, he's alive, there's a big building and there's a small building, he's in the small building.
Oh,
We
nice.
identified that he hadn't been hurt, but other people around him had. There was all of this stuff.
Yes,
And then out of
that's
the
the
blue,
same. It's the
yeah,
same essence of remote viewing. The difference is maybe the structure and the techniques and whatever. I'll give you another example. I'm really fortunate because I'm so enthusiastic that I've gone to the best teachers. And here on the island, we have one of the world's best guys. He lives in Ladysmith now. His name is Paul Elder. He was my first teacher.
okay.
Another one of my teachers, Pam Coronado, she works with all kinds of police forces in the US. And she was telling us recently, and her stuff's documented. In other words, when they catch the criminal, they've got him in the jail. It's not just something a story she's telling you. And Paul, in fact, was the first one where I got to see that you could locate missing people. I got to see that with him. And we started to learn the basics of the techniques with them. But Pam, for example, there was a lady in Mexico. Mexico, unfortunately, I've got dual nationality, and we've got really serious crime problems down there. So kidnapping is not uncommon for rich people. So this guy got kidnapped. 80% of the people that are kidnapped don't survive. It's really, really tragic. His wife right away got a hold of Pam Coronado, who lives in the US. Like the Mexican wife was pretty ambitious to get on it and get going. And so Pam Coronado started communicating telepathically with the person, the kidnapped person,
Yeah.
identified the place where he was at, then, and she identified the place by communicating with the criminal, going into the criminal's mind and getting information about the place.
Wow.
Then she communicated to the victim, the person suffering the crime, that he was going to be okay and they're going to make it when they're going to get out of it. And then, of course, she's a professional that works with police. She doesn't do things if they're not, if there's nothing they can do about it, she's not in it. Like, she's also a professional search and rescue person. Like, she's trained and prepared for this. So send the police out, catch the criminals, free the guy based on her information. That's phenomenal. And the idea that she could communicate or console a person in such a horrible situation is, again, when you told me your intention, and I've heard similar things in the remote viewing community, it's like, what we can do if we practice and go for it is quite incredible, you know?
Well, and the end of that story is that they had been to all of the embassies and everything, and somebody walked into a missing person's office in the States and picked up the file and said, why is this guy missing? Let's go get him.
Good.
The heads of 3 countries to get in there, and they went in and they got him and they brought him home. And
that's great. That's a great story.
Everything we said that we had seen was the truth.
Great.
You know?
In remote viewing, when you're doing a remote viewing session, and it's in the training video, or there's a information video on our page that we made for you guys for this presentation. But intention is, depending on which type of remote viewing you're doing, it's either the first thing you do or the second thing you do. Intention guides everything.
Intention is 99% of everything in my world.
And it's surprising what we can do, right? It's like when I tell my students, if you can see a star, that energy is coming from millions and millions and millions of miles away to get here. And you might only see a little twinkling of the star, but that's real energy, and it's gotten here, and it's our message. Like, we're perceiving something at such a great distance. And the people that have researched the brain and remote viewing, all this, like Dr. Michael Persinger is a really good one for that. They'll tell you that this is a very subtle signal in the mind. It's not like a big microwave comes on and all the information it's not a hard thing. No, it's a very subtle, delicate, fine thing. And it's the same thing. If you can like see a star, you can also remote view once you know the technique and you practice.
I love it, and I am so excited to hear that.
Well, it sounds like you're already like, sorry, I'm eating an apple here, and that's why
I've got my knife flash out there.
Sorry guys, I cut my apples before I eat them. And so anyways, yeah, it sounds like you're well on the path. There's another lady, I'm trying to remember her name, but she came up to me at the meeting, at the metaphysical meeting, and described it as an event that happened to her as a young lady. And I called it, I said to her, well, or I tried to explain to her, we consider that spontaneous ESP because there was no envelope, there was no process.
Right.
And when we do this, we're blind to the target, which means we have to just psychically find out what the question is. We're not, no one says, now look for this or do this or do
Right.
that.
Right. It's
So
not a scavenger hunt.
yeah, Pam Coronado, I don't know her internal process, but I know that she does have helpers, and I know she's well trained in remote viewing. So we have an assistant. If a person's dog is missing and someone comes up to me and says, hey, can you help me? I says, yeah, but talk to my assistant. And the assistant says, okay, what can I do for you? I'm missing Fifi. Try and help me find Fifi. So then the assistant will write, please locate and describe the location for Fifi in an envelope and write the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The remote viewer only receives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They know they have to do the work and produce the information, but they have no idea what it was. And one thing Paul Elder started teaching me way back in the day was map dosing. So to locate people on maps. And that's a part of the same thing. Like it's really quite surprising that there's physical detection of things and description of it, telepathy, like communication with humans, but there's also finding things on a map. It's just like, and the problem is clear. To be a master at this, you have to really be well trained and well practiced for about 3.5 years, 3 years to get at a really good level. And when you're there, 80% of your sessions are like the information is correct. That's enough for police or for whoever's asking the question. It's usually 80% is enough for them to get whatever they're trying to figure out, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Well, I tell you, I'm so looking forward to this event, and I'm sure everybody else is now.
Well, I hope
So,
so.
yeah, you know, I hope that you're going to show it to us that evening. How
I'm
people,
going to bring some sessions with me. Hold on. This is the room where I do my practice, but just to give you an example of how much practice we do, these are sessions. This is all paper work where you can see, like, for example, this one I started in Westwood Lake in the parking lot. That's where I started doing this practice session. And so I've been practicing a lot, and that's what real, like, high quality remote viewers, it's a whole process, but we do it because we like it. It's like golf.
yeah,
It's like people that go golfing. We like to see really amazing remote viewing.
I think it's absolutely, absolutely wonderful.
When I first confirmed it, I took a course with Paul Elder, and after the course, I was like, well, did he hypnotize us? Did he convince us subliminally? Am I fooling myself? Is this real or what? So I thought, okay, I'll find some practice targets on the internet. I'm just going to practice. And then once I had a phenomenal, like a really great result, not the first time, yeah, it takes practice, but I had a result. I was like, wow, I can do this. This is real. And I don't need another person to say anything to me. Once that happened, where I worked, I used to work at a big distribution warehouse for home hardware in Alberta. I was trying to tell all my friends, and they thought I was crazy.
Yeah,
So over the years, I've been teaching and practicing and seeing so many other students do it. And I don't care if people think it's crazy. It's just they're not educated well. In other words,
yeah.
I hope that eventually this becomes a normal part of our society.
Well, I hope so too, and I'm very excited to see you get up and speak that evening. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
And thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. And again, KO will be speaking on June the 6th.
Yeah, Kiau.
Kiau will be speaking on June the 6th at the Unitarian Fellowship Hall at 595 Townsite Road in Nanaimo. You can also find us at Facebook and or the Metaphysical Society for Conscious Living YouTube page. We look forward to seeing you there. Come and learn how to remote view. Good night and thank you.
Have a good night.